Good morning. The March 11, 2024 meeting of the Economic Opportunity Review Committee is hereby called to order. We welcome our guest speakers and members of the public and those watching on Xfinity Channel 64. EORC members include the Office of Economic Opportunity, whose Deputy Commerce Director is the ex officio chair of this committee, representatives from the African American and Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, as well as representatives from Council 47 and District Council 33. My name is Lynn Newsom. I am the Deputy Commerce Director for the City of Philadelphia's Office of Economic Opportunity under the Commerce Department. At this time, I'll ask the members of the EORC to introduce themselves, starting with my left.
Thank you so much. My name is April Jagetz, and I am currently the president of ASHME District Council 47. We represent 9 different locals in the city of Philadelphia. The biggest local, of course, is the 2187, 2186, which are the professional, administrative, and technical employees of the city of Philadelphia. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Jennifer Rodriguez. I'm the president and CEO of the Greater Philadelphia Hispanic Chamber of Commerce.
Good morning. Regina Hairston, president and CEO of the African American Chamber of Commerce for Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware.
And for the record, we'll note the absence of the District Council 33 member. Thank you. The EORC was established by City Council on March 1st, 2012. The committee is responsible for the following: to oversee and facilitate a public review of the implementation, effectiveness, and enforcement of Chapter 17-1600 entitled Economic Opportunity Plans, taking testimony related to diversity and inclusion in the city and being responsive to that testimony, and to share information that is relevant and useful to the development of MBE, WBE, DSBE firms seeking to do business with the City of Philadelphia. And last, to make recommendations to the City Council for the adoption of resolutions calling for the appropriate and remedial and legal remedies where we see flagrant violations to inclusion and commitments made by contractors to subcontractors on city contracts. These meetings are held on a quarterly basis. The next meeting will be Monday, June 10th, 2012 at 10 a.m. Transcripts of this and all previous meetings are available online at OEO website, which can be found at PHILA, that's phila.gov/OEO. Anyone that is interested in giving testimony at the next scheduled meeting must call 215-683-2057 or send an email to ariana.d.forde, that's ariana.d.forde @phila.gov by 3 p.m. the day before the meeting. You want to submit your full name, your callback telephone number, and email address where you can be reached. At this time, we will allow the public an opportunity to give testimony. The ground rules for giving testimony is you come in, you sign in to provide testimony, and then step to the mic. Being that there's nobody here for testimony, we'll move on to our speaker. But before that, I'd like to have Ariana come up and make an announcement on behalf of the Office of Economic Opportunity and the EORC. Ariana?
Good morning. On behalf of the Office of Economic Opportunity and the EORC Committee, I would like to express our condolences regarding the passing of Michael Decker, Chief Clerk of the Philadelphia City Council. My first communication with him was over email last year. He would help us with the scheduling and advertising for the EORC hearings. The last time I spoke to him was in January. His last words to me was, "I look forward to finally meeting you in person." He was such a nice person and he was very helpful. He will be greatly missed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ariana. Now we'll ask our speakers to come up and take their seat. We have with us today Ms. Rachel Branson, Director of the Office of Minority Business Success, newly created office that will be and has been working with the Office of Economic Opportunity closely. And with her also is her deputy, Darnell Thomas. Whenever you're ready, Rachel.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Again, my name is Rachel Branson. I am the director of the Office of Minority Business Success, which is a new role created by Mayor Parker as part of her administration. It's a cabinet-level position. As I am told, that part of the origin of this role is this idea that if it's not measured, it's not monitored, and it's not done. And so part of the creation of the Office of Minority Business Success in the mayor's cabinet is to keep minority MBEs, minority business enterprises, at the forefront of all discussions in the city. So to elevate any issues regarding MBEs to the cabinet, where I work closely with Commerce, the managing director, the law department, and the other members of the mayor's cabinet. Just some background about myself. I'm an attorney by training. I started my career in Philadelphia at Schneider, Harrison, Siegel & Lewis, where I practiced law in the corporate and IP practice groups. Schneider has a large entrepreneurial base, had a entrepreneurial base. So at Schneider, I worked very closely with small businesses doing M&A deals, and small businesses, nonprofits, and some larger businesses, but that is where I developed, I was trained to work with small businesses and assess their needs. Also, while I was at Schneider, I was president of the Black Lawyers of Philadelphia, the Barristers Association, and through that role, I had the opportunity to engage with the community in a meaningful way, as well as the Philadelphia Bar Association. I left Schneider to go in-house, and I was at SunGard Data Systems, which got acquired by a company called FIS. There, I was in their legal department, but I supported a sales team, managing all of their legal needs. I moved from legal to procurement, where I ran legal operations for FIS's procurement, global procurement, had a spend of about $4 billion. I left there and was most recently general counsel of a fintech. So I share my experience to say that I've worked closely with entrepreneurs, I've worked closely with the community, I've worked with procurement, and I've worked in a startup. And some of this role is to create an office, so stand up an office, assess the needs of minority businesses, and to be an advocate for them, which is integral to what attorneys do, but to bring all of my experiences and to advocate for MBEs while working closely with OEO. I've met with the Hispanic Chamber and with the African American Chamber as well. But part of the role is to be a convener of all of the organizations organizations in Philadelphia that purport to support MBEs, to make sure to, cross-pollinate. We're meeting with the public and private sector, which I think is a little different than what's currently happening, and so we're able to hear the conversations, hear the needs, talking directly with entrepreneurs since we've started, and trying to lay a roadmap or kind of a map of all of the resources that are available to MBEs in Philadelphia. Part of our goal and our mission is to be a one-stop shop for MBEs. So, and already since the announcement of the role, we've had entrepreneurs call us with issues and challenges they've had in working with the city, or they just want to share their story about starting a business, running a business, and challenges they've had. One of the things that we've, as Darnell and I, we've been meeting with stakeholders, we've been hearing some themes. We are here to help kind of, I would say, grease the skids for our MBEs in Philadelphia and make sure they thrive.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Darnell Thomas. I'd like to say that I am the resident entrepreneur, but my official title is Deputy Director of MBS. Just a brief background. I started as an entrepreneur at the age of 14. Got my first business loan from PCDC at 18. Opened retail locations along the East Coast and grew that company over 14 years. And one of the reasons why I was appointed to this position is because I felt at that business, once I garnered a huge client, Five Below, and it grew me right out of business. And so I started another business, which was a successful exit. And so I have both sides of the story and the daily trials and tribulations that entrepreneurs go through. So I speak the same language that they speak, and I can also help communicate that need or the wants and desires or frustrations that that entrepreneur may have to my director as well as the mayor and the team in the admin. So I'm just here to help disrupt and innovate internally and also connect to the larger entrepreneur community to make sure that they are successful. And one of the things that we want to do is create a success map so that entrepreneurs from startups to emerging to mature mature companies know where to go, who to talk to, and how to become more successful. So that's what I'm here to do.
You have any questions for us?
Any questions?
Committee?
Hi, so have you defined the groups that you are going to be serving? So you mentioned MBEs, is that exclusively MBEs, or are there other disadvantaged groups that are going to fall under the purview of the office?
So, as the mayor has directed, we are here to serve Black and brown businesses, but we are here to serve all of the citizens of Philadelphia. So, looking specifically at Black and brown, but also serving everyone. As you know, it's important to the mayor that there be economic opportunity for all, and so we're focused on the all as well. Some of the efforts that we've identified and some of the gaps in service for MBEs we've identified, I guess, fall under the category of, the rising tide lifts all boats. So there are some challenges that impact all small businesses in Philadelphia, but just disproportionately impact MBEs. But we intend to try to improve all of those processes, which will better everyone.
Thank you for sharing your stories. You both are uniquely positioned to be successful in this role, so we appreciate you for serving. Director Branson, you talked about the mayor's vision. It is your charge to operationalize that vision. And can you help me and the committee understand what measure of success is going to look like? And then part two of that, there was a study done by Arizona State University, and Philadelphia ranked second to last as far as the ease of doing business. Can you talk to us about how you plan to incorporate that into your operational plan?
So on your first question on operationalizing the mayor's vision, what I've been doing, or what we've been doing since we started at the end of January, is going on a listening tour. So as you know, we've met with the African American Chamber, I've met with the Hispanic Chamber. We've met with folks in nonprofits, folks that have capital, many people in the space who are doing work in service of MBEs. And so as part of that process, we have been listening and distilling and trying to identify where to focus our efforts, what our efforts are and where to focus them. As we've done that, we've identified that they're under our convening power of the mayor's office. We intend to advocate for MBEs. What does that look like? That looks like elevating the issues to the mayor, but also we've been looking at policies. We said we're looking at every policy, practice, procedure, rule, law that stands in the way of MBE success. And we've been identifying them and intend to raise them with the mayor and others that can modify that, working with the law department as well, our partners in the law department. So that's one way. Also, through customer service. So I think some of her vision included, I know it's important to the mayor that we have a government that people can see, touch, and feel. And so as we go into the community and become the face of minority business success, to one, listen to the stories, take action. So we've been able to connect with our partners in commerce and elevate issues of small business owners saying someone hasn't gotten back to them, or it's just really a lot of the red tape that I guess probably the Arizona report that you've identified. So, but we've been able to elevate those issues and kind of move them forward, get background information. Things aren't as easy as people, sometimes, people don't know all the steps involved, but our goal is, we want them to call us, and then we reach out to our partners in commerce and say, hey, can you check into this issue for us? So that's one area that we've had a lot of success. I think the other thing that keeps coming up.
May I?
Yes, you may.
So one specific area that we keep hearing about is the certification process and how daunting and how long it takes. And so, we're going to take a look at that right away, because I think that's low-hanging fruit, maybe. Maybe.
I don't know.
But
I don't know if
at
Lynn
least
says so.
yeah, I think half of the problem is identifying the problem, right? So we know that that's a problem across. We heard it in different departments internally. So we certainly want to take a look at that process and see, are there ways to improve it, eliminate some of the steps, bring in other partners that could help in that process just to speed up the ability to do business with the city or the different departments. So that's one immediate thing that's low-hanging fruit for us to take a look at. And so again, we have convening powers, and we also can elevate a lot of these issues to the mayor to make the team there aware of what's happening and what entrepreneurs like myself go through.
Another thing that I want to raise is just scaling. There are a number, I forget the statistic, I don't know if it's 96% of MBEs have 0 employees. Yeah. And so one of the things that we want to be supportive in is helping MBEs scale. And so one of the things that keeps coming up, as you know, is with regard to back office support. So there are several organizations in Philadelphia that are offering or creating their own version of that. And so we want to be part of that conversation and perhaps structure it so that, we are all kind of rowing in the same direction and making sure that, one, people know about these resources. I think that's something else that keeps coming up, is that the public is not aware of the resources available to them. And so marketing those efforts and making sure that for MBEs and for any small business in Philadelphia, when they start, they should be calling the Commerce Department because there are so many resources there. But some of it is, just marketing and letting people know that what's available to them.
Yeah, well, one of the things we found out just Friday was that entrepreneurs don't know what's happening in commerce to the degree in which they should. And they also connect commerce to some of the compliance offices such as L&I. So in general, the city is not good for me to contact. So they want to stay away. So we have a branding issue that, again, we can convene the correct stakeholders and partners to help us get the word out that, no, the commerce is a friend. Maybe you don't like L&I, but commerce is certainly a friend, and you should talk to commerce about any L&I issue or talk to MBS about any issues that you may have with the city.
I'm sorry. I do have a question. Your office is the Minority Business Success.
Yes.
And we know that success is contingent on finances. Do you have any plans on tackling the issue of low access to capital for minority businesses, contacting financial institutions to help with credit lines or low interest rates or anything of that nature?
So one of our key partners in this work is Kafi Lindsay, who is heading up the Mayor's Office of Strategic Partnerships. So she has been actively meeting with foundations to find out what resources are available, what their areas of interest are, and things that they're able to support. We also are identifying sources, CDFIs and others, that have resources for MBEs as well. Anything else on that? Darnell's our expert on...
We all know and heard in the campaign, patient capital. And so we can't start a bank or do anything like that, but what we can do is, again, convene CDFIs such as PIDC, the Enterprise Center, MPF in North Philadelphia, and make sure that they work together to possibly, here's some of the ideas, pool money. And we talk to Kafi and see if banks will, if they had pooled money that they could guarantee the debt from the banks, for example, that's patient capital where they underwrite more friendly. So those are some of the ideas. So we have ideas around this, and we just have to convene, and we just need to be given time to do it. So it's still early yet, but at the end of the day, we do know we're charged with access to capital, patient capital, friendly capital. And so we're going to convene folks in those spaces and make sure that we get any city resources that we can to help those CDFIs and lenders lend to local businesses, not just MBEs.
I have a follow-up question to that regard. So with CDFIs, in the process of convening them, are you asking how much money they're lending now? Because we've seen an enormous amount of investment coming out of the state to CDFIs for lending. We saw an enormous investment during COVID that was put into CDFIs for this particular reason. So I think it would be helpful to understand what is the rate they're lending at now.
I agree with that, and no, we haven't talked about that as of yet, but it would be great to get the data to know who are you lending to, what areas are you covering, what industries are you covering. For example, we talked to a CDFI in Delaware that's lending probably 80% of their portfolios in Philadelphia to the Latino market, and they're doing acquisitions. And so that's amazing to me, because acquisitions for grocery stores and stuff like that, maybe one day they could get bigger acquisitions because they know how to do it. So the data, I think in general, we have to collect data from the market, from the stakeholders, from the entrepreneurs to really get a good picture of where the gaps are so that we can create that success map. But thank you for that.
So during the Kenney administration, he issued an executive order with the Small Business Owner Bill of Rights. that basically, not guarantees, but makes a promise that the city of Philadelphia will provide good customer service that is, I would say, fair. So that is, I think, a really important document that I think should be reactivated. And it's a way of and perhaps, reissue it. It's, this idea that you as a business owner have the right to customer service, to transparent processes, et cetera, et cetera. And I think a lot of it goes to the point that Regina made related to the ease of doing business. When we survey small business owners, which we have done now collectively for close to 3 years. We're about to issue a new survey in collaboration with the Asian and African American Chamber and the LGBTQ Chamber. Consistently, 3 things rise up to as priorities. The ease of doing business, the cost of doing business, and crime and safety. And the ease of doing business, in the opinion of the Hispanic Chamber, is probably the top priority, because the time and complexity equals cost. So not only are businesses having to pay taxes, and we know the story about Philadelphia small business taxes, but in addition to that, that complexity, bureaucracy, adds dollars and cents. So I think it's almost like a double tax in many ways, triple tax, because you double tax, and now one more, a triple tax, right? And so many of our businesses in communities of color are in industries that require a lot of licensing, permitting, and they just do not have the back office and the funding to really get this done fast. So they have to step out of their business to perform these tasks, which then they have to come back. So there's this whole process that I know, if we could streamline some key processes, add predictability to them, there would be a significant improvement in the perception of the city of Philadelphia as a place in which to do business. And finally, those same surveys that we have conducted, we are probably the only organizations that ask small businesses and entrepreneurs whether they would recommend the city of Philadelphia as a place in which to do business to other entrepreneurs. So that's your opinion as an entrepreneur to other entrepreneurs. And the scale really, the outcome of that question is that less than 50% of entrepreneurs would recommend the city of Philadelphia. In fact, the net promoter score is -55, right? So it's really not a good picture for the city of Philadelphia. And those are the 3 items that they mentioned that would make a significant difference.
Thank you for sharing that. After my meeting with the policy committee of the Hispanic Chamber, that was one of the things that has stayed with me, because when I think about, one, that there's generally concerns with small business owners about the difficulty or the perception that there's, it's very difficult to do business in Philadelphia. And then if you add English not being your first language to that, I can only imagine how that just, it compounds the issue. In our capacity, we sit on the Open for Business PHL committee. And so we are in the process, we had our kickoff meeting on Friday, to elevate, again, those issues that have been identified, the amount of time that it takes to get, the L&I or the inspections, and then how the trickle effect that has, and when there's a delay in the inspection, landlords, their tenants or business owners are still paying rent, and employees aren't working. And we know that, MBE owners hire minorities, and so there's that concern too. And so we've been collecting those stories, and we intend to advance those and elevate those as part of those open for business PHL discussions.
And if I may, one thing you may want to look at is the service delivery district to district, right? So you have L&I, and these other offices are divided by zones. And what we're finding at times is that there's a disparity in service delivery between zones. So we will have, one of our CPAs in our membership that works with businesses across different areas, and they will be doing the same transaction with two different L&I offices, and one L&I office will work, at a decent pace, and the other one will be like super delayed. And when asked, and I've seen I've been copied on communication, and when asked about the delay, they've been told it takes as long as it takes.
I've seen some of that.
So there's really, the average may not tell you the full story, is really looking at disparities. And I think in all areas of services in the city of Philadelphia, when things are divided, when tasks are divided by zone, the tendency that we hear is that one zone gets better service than another. And that's important to also assess.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If I could just jump in. And, when you look at these kind of disparities, so my background, before I was the president of district council, I was a building inspector for L&I.
Okay.
And so I know some of the challenges that folks can have from district to district. And L&I, I think, has always been a department that suffers from many, many, many different kinds of directives, and essentially is understaffed.
Yep.
And that's one of the challenges I know as an employee or a former employee, and actually working on the L&I task force. The report just came out from Driscoll's office, Councilman Driscoll's office, and I believe Beza Miranda was the chair of that committee, and then now is the commissioner of L&I. And so the hope is some of these disparities come from the city just not being able to recruit and retain. And my life even before that was a union carpenter. And so as a minority person working in this industry, I guess my question is around the building trades and minority businesses and the challenges that minority businesses have in the building trades, and whether or not there has been some discussion around elevating that sector as well, because that is an avenue out of poverty for people of color in the building trades, unionized work. And so I know that there has been talk about that for many years, and I know that's on the heart of the mayor. And so I was hoping that there has been some dialogue around that as well.
Yeah, I don't know about you, Rachel, but last week it just came to my attention that workforce is directly connected to the success of business, right? So I'm so focused on business, and we heard from various departments here how that pipeline is needed. And so you're absolutely right, but I swear it just came to me Friday after talking to two different departments that discussed that pipeline and how we need to get young people involved in the unions and apprenticeship, quite honestly, so that they are ready to maybe start businesses or work for a local business. So it's something that's now on my radar, at least. I'm sure yours as well. But I do know the mayor and the team there talked about workforce development, and we know there are tons of dollars there, federal, state dollars for workforce development. And quite honestly, the youth here need it. You know, you can see the violence and everything else. So, so now it's on my radar, and I know Rachel is also, and she heard the same thing last week.
And if I could just lift something up around that, as it relates to union labor and small businesses and minority businesses, in order to grow businesses in Philadelphia so that they can afford union labor, so that they can be competitive on bids, they have to grow and they have to scale. Because if not, we've heard the statistic, 96%, and in Philadelphia it's actually 97% of businesses that don't have employees. 96% is the national statistic. So until we're actually able to grow and scale Black businesses, so that ecosystem can work together.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Absolutely
that.
right. Yep.
And to that point, one of the first conversations we had was when I asked the question, you're charged with creating business growth. How do you do that? Can you give us a outline on how you intend to grow businesses? Like Regina said, that, you know, it's the scaling up, making sure they have the capacity to, you know, do bigger projects. How do you begin to tackle that dilemma? How do you actually grow a business?
So some of the things that we took some time to identify is what businesses need based on their, I guess, where they are in their business life cycle, right? So for early stage companies, that could be seed capital, their resources such as programs. Our intention is to connect them with programs available for new business owners. I don't remember anything else for early stage. For mid-stage...
Accelerators.
Accelerators. For mid-stage and emerging growth companies, we talked again about resources, but specific resources. And part of our mapping exercise and our meetings with Commerce is to identify, in the land bank and others, where these accelerators already exist. So for, again, one of the themes that we've identified is a lack of knowledge about where these resources are, right? So connecting MBEs to the resources that are really already available to them, such as these accelerators. And we've even discussed creating a procurement accelerator specifically to grow and scale some MBEs to ready them for city contracts. And then for late stage companies, we talked about VC, connecting them with venture capital dollars, more patient capital.
Yep. Fellowships.
Fellowships, that's exactly right. So it depends on the business and where they are in their stage of development.
And each business will need, back in the day it was technical support, but that doesn't work as well now, right? So they need, and Regina, we talked about this triage, right? You come in and we see specific, a generalist will look at the specific issues that business may face and then send you out to a specialist who can help you in that particular area at your stage in business. So they will need professional services going forward, coaching going forward. Todd from PHDC, he mentioned mindset, because again, if we can teach small business owners how to be persistent and forever learning and how to network, how to be resilient, to take care of your body and health, all those things, that help with success. So that's the new type of training, leadership training, that we have to talk about, those soft skills, things that if we teach them that, they can do almost anything and learn almost anything. So these are some of the ways that we need to ready these businesses, because there are huge opportunities coming from the federal government, from the state. And just to look at some of these models that are out here, we plan to reach out to the city of El Paso and San Antonio, who have great playbooks developed by the NOWAC Metro Finance Lab on Drexel campus. So these are local the institutions that help other cities And so again, they face red tape here in this city, and we have to now elevate what they've done to the mayor, to the different departments, and say, hey, let's look at other cities and see what they did around procurement. Let's look at other cities, international cities. Copenhagen, what did they do with land? What did they do with bonds? And how did they get funding for entrepreneurs? Because Copenhagen was one of the poorest cities, and now it's like number 2. So these models are out there. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. And we have a great governor now, too. If you look at what happened with Open for Business, PA Open for Business, or whatever it's called, you know, the state is now penalized if they don't serve that entrepreneur within 48 hours, I think, or something like that. So there are models out there, and we just have to just put the pieces of the puzzle together to help them succeed.
Lynn, one more thing. One thing that has come kind of clear to me as we do this work is that there are cultural issues that impact MBEs that may not impact the larger small business community. And so one of the things I know for sure is there is no one-size-fit-all answer for each MBE. We know that there are some MBEs that look very successful, that their books aren't together, but we know that this is going to require, as someone said, business social workers. So it is a one-on-one, one-to-one type of triage, as Darnell mentioned, looking at that business, seeing what it needs in particular. We even met with one entrepreneur who's been fairly successful, but doesn't know why they're successful. And so one of the things that they've asked for is someone to come and look at their business so they can tell their story, because they're not even sure how to tell their story. They're like, something I'm doing works, but I don't really know. So when we met with Penn last week, we said, well, you know, we need some resources from Wharton to see, you know, can you make a connection so that so our MBEs can get in there and get some dedicated consulting and find out how they can tell their story so that they can help another MBE.
That's interesting, because that's pretty much like what we tried to do with our business development series, where we give them that education, some of that knowledge that they lacked, you know, and they know how to do the work, they know their skill, they know, you know, how to perform the work. However, they may not know, you know, like you said, why their business is working. You know, they might not have had a business plan when they started out. So our business development series is geared to do that. And Darnell, you talked about the technical assistance. We try to define or redefine what technical assistance looks like. And a lot of it is the information, how to set up a business, how to staff your business, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you know what it is to be an entrepreneur, those type of things that, you know, weren't taught in the past. So we look forward to working with your office very closely on tackling some of those issues, breaking down some of those barriers that impede the success for minority businesses. One of the things that I wanted to ask you about the procurement process in the city. Have you taken a look at the procurement process, and what are your initiatives into cutting some of I heard you talk about red tape, cutting some of the red tape in the city's procurement processes?
You want to take that?
Yeah, so it's still early yet for us, Lynn, but there are behind the scenes talks about ways to streamline the process, right? And so and to be, you know, more transparent and more inclusive, but it's a bunch of red tape too with that, right? So everybody knows it's a problem, including the mayor and the team there. And they have strategies that they can deploy, but again, we have to be careful, and that we don't want to topple things that are working, but we want to kind of quell some of those things that aren't working, or stop them or cut them out. So we have to take a deeper look, and I think over the next couple of weeks, we'll start looking at these processes and saying, and just seeing what's the what are the problems, what are the opportunities inside of the procurement process. But the main thing that we want to do is make MBEs in particular aware of the opportunities in the city, because we are notoriously famous for starting the wrong businesses. right? We start just risky, low-margin businesses that typically go out of business within 5 years, where other groups, they fell in 9 or 10 years. Business is just tough for everybody, right? So we want to make sure that we connect them to the information that will say, hey, look, the city buys this amount of services per year. You can have this kind of business if you go through the readiness programs available here. So we have to just figure out, like, what are those steps that they would have to go through? But the most important thing is to prepare them to say, you know what, I'll go through hell to get that business. No, excuse my French, but that's the real idea. While we take our time, and I know it's going to take some time to go through this process and fine tune and cut some of the fat. So.
And one last question, and I know, Rachel, we talked about this. People are going to ask, what's the difference between your office and my office, the Office of Economic Opportunity? So shall we together try to put that in some type of context?
So one of the things that we aligned on was that part of the role of the Office of Minority Business Success is to elevate issues that are not part of the larger Commerce Department conversation. Commerce Department's mandate is large. And so some of the role of MBS is to elevate the policies and processes that stand in the way of MBE's success. We've taken some that you've identified in your day-to-day and just bringing them to the table for the mayor to hear. Things like the certification process we've talked about and trying to streamline that. But so that's one area, is just one that mainline to the mayor to elevate the issues, some that you've identified, and just passing that agenda on. Also the customer service piece, being part of the government that people can see, touch, and feel. Well, see, touching and feeling are the same, but in here, and being a one-stop shop, so entrepreneurs can call us, and then we can say, well, you know what, I know OEO has a program about this, or they're going to have a program on Friday, or next week, and just pointing people to the resources that they need. Also, I mean, we're in some ways co-conspirators for the success of MBEs, and so working together, we'll identify things that need to be modified and changed, but we can't do our work without you, and you have all the data. And you're going to make sure that we comply with the law as well. So, whereas we're public and private, we're looking at the government systems as well as community partners and seeing how we can identify efficiencies and then bring those back to you, things that we hear. It's an ongoing dialogue, an exchange of information and knowledge exchange, drawing on your vast experience dealing with MBEs and making sure they're in compliance and governments are in compliance, and then giving us the tools we need to go out and elevate them in this administration.
May I?
Yes.
So, Len, you talked about being a pit bull and enforcer, and we want to keep you in that role. So if you're the pit bull, we want to be the nimble cat that goes from department to department and bring resources to those departments. So maybe you're too busy enforcing some of the rules and policies, right, with your mainstream businesses as well as MBEs. So maybe we can help out with the certification process, or we'll hear some of your needs and elevate it to the mayor to make sure that we have